Hello, yogis and yoga teachers. I am so excited to have you on today's live with my giving everyone a moment or two to join. There we are.
Hi. Hey.
Okay, so for today's live, we're going to be talking about what to do when you really just graduate from yoga teacher training and how do you actually start getting the ball rolling training and actually be paid for it. Because I know a lot of teachers come out of training, they're like, oh, I'm just going to practice, I'm just going to offer things for free. And you just spent like oftentimes thousands of dollars on yoga teacher training and you want to start making that money back right away. Even though this is something you love and you're totally okay to give it away for free, you still want that energy exchange. I think this is something that's really, really important. So I have my dear friend Gregor here, who I actually met when I was walking the Camino, and he became a yoga teacher after, and I've been watching his journey, and it's been so, so incredible. So Gregor, say hello and introduce yourself.
Hey, Taylor. Hey, everybody here. I'm so glad we're doing this because I was just thinking, I think our community experience is now like 2 years ago, and I still remember I met you in the tapas street of Logroño, and we were talking, and you told me that you were kind of a travel blogger and also a yoga teacher. And I've always done some yoga since my early 20s, and I always thought, at one point I want to maybe do teacher training. And then sometimes life gets into the way, so I didn't really think about this. And then I met you, and I thought, wow, she just does it. Taylor's just out there, and she just did something completely different. And then she decided she's gonna get into yoga. And I kind of it wasn't that clear at the moment, but I thought, maybe I can do something like this too.
I love that. So where are you in the world and what are you doing teaching
Yeah,
now?
good point. I'm Austrian, but I'm based in Barcelona. I've been living here for 8 years now already. Time has really rushed by. And I came here to study, to do a master's degree, and then of course, I needed money, so I got into a 9 to 5 job, and for a time that was really nice. And but then the more I got into yoga, the less I liked my job. So I got to a point where I just wanted to move more, and especially I wanted to work with people. So for me, it was really this like kind of whenever I got into a yoga class or even into therapy, I just thought, wow, how beautiful it is to have a job where you actually help somebody, where you actually make somebody's day a little bit better, And so last year I started my 200-hour yoga teacher training, and it was a year-long program, like 1 weekend a month. And wow, it really got me thinking. And so towards the end of the yoga teacher training, I left my job. I left my job to focus on myself and also on yoga because I've already started teaching. And this is, I think, what we're here to talk about today.
Yes, yes. So you told me that you were teaching at the studio before you even graduated. How did
Yeah,
that?
yeah. So kind of let's jump right into this topic because I think I was asked by my studio if I wanted to teach a class while I was still doing the teacher training. And I really think that this happened because of two reasons. The first was I basically lived there. I went to so many classes. I knew all the teacher. I knew everybody working at the studio. So I was a kind of quite familiar face. And at the same time, towards the end of my teacher training, I thought I need to practice. And that's how I organized my first workshop. And then I put it on Instagram and I told everybody about it. And then some people from the studio, some other teachers approached me and they say, I've seen you did a workshop. Is this something that you would like really do? Like, would you really be interested in teaching? And I had this moment where I was like, no, I'm not. No, this is not something I really want to do because I was really about to not admitting that this is because it was such a big desire inside myself that I was really afraid of admitting it, because if I admitted it, maybe it could all go wrong. So, and at that point, I was really like, no, I have to be very truthful now, and I have to really speak from my soul. And I said, yes, this is really something I would like to do. And I think because people knew at the studio that I was interested and they knew me, in the end, they offered me my first class. And yeah, and I've been teaching at that studio since February now.
So really, it sounds like you put yourself out there. You were open to what could happen. And then it ended up someone else reaching out to you and being like, hey, actually come here, like come in. So this goes to show that like the more you talk about it, the more you share, like the more that it's obvious to other people that you're willing to take steps and to move forward. And people love that. They see that you're just sitting behind your computer. People don't really know what you want. You have to make that really obvious, don't you?
You really have. This is kind of, the more you are able to talk about it, the better. I was, and this is really hard for me. So I try to put things on Instagram, and then you always get this kind of imposter syndrome thingy going, and I'm always like, oh, what am I even doing? But the truth is that all the opportunities that have come up for me so far, I think they're all because I'm really very vocal about what I do, what I want to do, because I'm also kind of, let's face it, I'm also a bit obsessed. Like, I'm obsessed with the whole yoga, so there's basically nothing else I talk about. And at the same time, I got really nice feedback. So all the things that were really hard for me at the beginning, especially, like uploading stuff on Instagram, giving my first classes, and I was like, oh, this is kind of, it's really hard in the beginning, but people were super nice, and I didn't expect them to be so open and friendly. I thought people would be judging me, but at least kind of all the judges kept quiet, and people were really like, wow, I admire you for being so out and about everything.
Yeah, that's something that I found too. I was really nervous because before I really got into the yoga space, I was focusing more on body positivity and
Mm,
body. And I used to post pictures of myself in lingerie, just being like
yeah,
really bare and open to the world. And I got like some strong hate through doing that. So when I started pivoting more to yoga, I was worried about the judgment that I would get from being a yoga teacher, and pivoting yet again to like something new and being, oh, just like another yoga teacher. But I've gotten like so little, like I can count on one hand the amount of comments I've got of people like questioning or like saying something that wasn't like great to me.
yeah.
So I think it just goes to show that like when you really love something, when you're truly passionate about something, like it really shows, like you really like glow, like your aura expands, however you want to think about it. And people, they see that and they're just like, okay, whatever, this chick or this guy can go do his own thing, sort of
Yeah.
kind of leave you alone. So the judgment that a lot of us are so scared of, I think, is really internal
This
judgment.
is wow, but for me, this is really part of the work, kind of to get through this internal judgment, and it's not easy. I still have so many classes where, I'm teaching, and then at the beginning, I'm like, who am I to tell you something? And it's really hard, and you have to kind of get over that each and every single time. And but it also, the thing is, and here kind of, and this goes really in line with the topic of this live stream, because giving or teaching yoga classes or really anything, you just need practice. And the more you do it, the more you figure out it's not so much about all the things you know, and it's not even so much about who you are. Like, you don't have to be a very special person to do it. No, it's just about the hard work of doing it again and again, and finding out what works for you and what doesn't work so much. And in the end, especially when it's about yoga, and that helped me relax a lot in the end, that kind of, we're teaching this very, very old tradition. So you can also rely on that your classes will be good because you're teaching this very beautiful tradition that just helps people feel good, you know?
Yeah, I think a yoga class has to be really, really nice to not have any effect on you. And like, I don't think I've taken it. class ever that's bad. I haven't loved all the yoga teachers that I've practiced
Yeah.
with, but like it would be pretty difficult to make a yoga class not affect someone.
I have this, I have this so many times. I go into a yoga class and then the class starts and I'm like, I don't like this and I don't like the rhythm. And about 15 minutes in, I'm like, oh, this is so good. This is so good. And after Shavasana, I was like, oh, I'm in love. I'm in love. And I think this is really just because of the practice, because yoga in itself does this to the body, to the mind, and to the soul. So, yeah. But I really had to learn that as a teacher because I was always thinking, oh God, maybe my classes should be like more high energy, or they should be slower, or they should be bum bum bum. But in the end, I think all of these things you get with time. And oh, here's something. I really want to share this today. At the very beginning, and I don't know if this happened to you, but I tried to be very professional and very good at the beginning. And I tried copying other people or other teachers that I admired a lot because I thought this is what my classes should look like. And then, and this is actually, I think, something that I read on Instagram, that kind of there is a magic in being a new teacher. And you should kind of have this experience of being new at something, of not being an expert at something, and really live this experience to the fullest, because this is where you find out who you are as a teacher. So after reading that, I really allowed myself to not be perfect, to kind of sometimes make jokes in my classes if something doesn't work out. And my students know a lot of times I get the sides wrong. I say left and I mean right, and all of these things. But yeah, also kind of, as well as our Instagram audience, our students are usually kinder than we think. They're kind of like, oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, they're kinder, and then they don't even remember the mistakes that you made in the middle of class.
Oh,
Have them in Shavasana and walking out the door, they're just in this blissful state of like, oh, that was awesome. Like, no one cares that you forgot right and left. I forgot doing half frog in one class. So I walked out like, oh no, they're going to be uneven. But like, no, class was like good. The rest of it were perfectly even. It's fine. So it's like the little things that we stress over as yoga teachers. Like our students just, they don't care. And also at the end of the day, our students have a choice of whether they want to practice with us again or not. And if they don't, that's okay. You're not the teacher for them. I say this all the time. Like, you're allowed to choose what you want to teach. Like, I see you on Instagram all the time talking about like arm balances and stuff. And I was like, oh, I'm glad he's teaching it because I don't want to touch it. That is not for
yes.
me. Yeah.
God, this is such a big thing because I think each of us, we have our very own like things that we're super interested in, and we think like, oh, this is what I want to learn, or this is what I want to work on. But then other people are amazing teachers in other kind of areas of yoga, and kind of, I think this is also a very interesting aspect of the way of becoming a yoga teacher, to find out what you can actually bring to your students. And for me, because like this is like, because of course I love practicing arm balances, but I know kind of in a beginner's class I kind of, it's not fun for them to try handstands and fall down 50 times. So for me, for instance, I recently found out I really like reading about yoga philosophy and yoga history. So I've been doing this a lot on my own, and now every now and then I kind of get little bits into my yoga classes, and my students have been really interested so far. And I was like, because when I started yoga, I was like against all the spiritual side. I just wanted the physical side, and I was like, ooh, I don't want any spiritual woohoo. So, and now that I'm super interested in all of this, I'm very careful in introducing it into my classes. But generally, people seem really open, and that's really, yeah, really fascinating for me. I think in the end, your students feel if it comes from a place of authenticity, or if you're just trying to kind of, yeah, make something up.
100%. So just to navigate us a little bit, because I know we
Yeah.
could go off in this conversation, navigate us a little bit more back to people who are just starting out, because you're not just teaching in studio classes. You've also got like a workshop that's like by the water in Barcelona that looks like absolutely amazing. And I've noticed that you focus a lot on chakras. Like you've got videos on your Instagram.
Mm.
Shop series is also the chakras. Was that intentional and like niching down to just talk about that, or is that just where like your passion's taking you?
That's a really good question. It's mainly really where my passion is taking me. I would really like to niche it down because everybody says you're supposed to, but I still haven't found the right angle there. So I'm still trying out. And I have to say, I mean, at the moment I also have the time because I'm not working, so I'm trying out loads of loads of different things. I'm doing the studio classes. I'm teaching some workshops. I've started this Queer Yoga Barcelona initiative. So it's loads of different things, and some work well and others don't. And this is really something that I think you just have to learn to flow with a bit. So at the beginning, I was very kind of worried, like, oh, if I do this workshop, if I organize this, then it really has to work. What if it doesn't work? The truth is, nothing happens. If it doesn't work, nothing happens. I had this one yoga class I gave at the park, and there was literally just one person showing up. And I was so ashamed, and I was like, oh my God, why am I doing this? I should just have stayed home and watched The Simpsons. And he said, oh, I'm so lucky I'm in for a private class. And it was super nice. So I really think like kind of, because there is really these two things that we already mentioned a bit. One is, in order to become a better yoga teacher, you have to do it. And you have to do it a lot, and you have to give as many classes as possible. And on the other hand, you just have to keep offering classes, you just have to keep speaking about it. So people around you need to know that you want to do this. And of course, I think it goes like a little bit like this. There's like first peak of success, and then it goes down a little bit, and then there comes like the slow way of working yourself up. And this first peak of success is like really organizing your first workshop, and all of your friends show up, and then your friends get tired of it, and then you slowly have to start building a new community.
No, I love that little graph that you just like painted for us, that visual. That's so good. And I loved how you spoke to like how some things work and some things don't. Like I'm not public with saying like, hey, I canceled like X amount of workshops last week because, or not last week, last year because no one signed up. Like people see the success and what is working for your teachers and think that they just need to replicate that and then that will work for them. But I like to look at it as like, yes, you can take inspiration from other teachers. You can do the same things. Of course, so many of us are going to be talking about like chakras. I talk about the chakras. That's popular for me on YouTube as well. And I like to think of it as like, oh, I really like how this teacher teaches. I'm going to try on their hat, or like it's like putting on like a costume, like trying on this teacher's way of doing things and seeing if that works for you. Maybe it fits, maybe it doesn't. Especially in the beginning, you're like going through like all these people trying to figure out what works for you, and eventually between all of that you really find who you are and what starts to click. And when something starts clicking, then you're just like, okay, we're going down this path, this is where we're going. And sometimes it's 100% what you love and what you want to do, and other times you're just like, oh no, I don't really love teaching yin yoga. Why does everyone love me for yin yoga so much, sort of thing, which is not the case for me. I love yin, but you do have to work with what is working when you're getting started. Of course, if you hate it, don't do it. But
I mean, yeah, I totally agree. I mean, what you just said, if it's absolutely not for you, don't do it. But it's also kind of, and this is the interesting thing, because in the end, yoga is also a service to your community and to your students. And if you feel a lot of feedback for doing one particular things that people love you for, maybe your calling is in that direction. And maybe you should just kind of walk that path in that direction a little bit further and just see. Because kind of, if it's not 100% what you thought you would be doing, maybe you find out kind of a couple of months or even years later why this is something that people like you doing so much.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know something that's really common for a lot of teachers is thinking that they don't know enough. A lot of teachers walk out of their 200-hour yoga teacher training, they're like, I don't know enough to teach. I'm like, you just got a whole certification.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, part of this is like, Yoga Alliance, I think, needs to have a bit more hours and stuff for like practice in their curriculum, which is a whole other topic and discussion. But the good news is that even just with 10 hours of practicing, you're allowed to go out and teach and be paid for it and get that practice. So what do you say for teachers who don't think that they know enough?
God, what would you say about this? Because I have a whole big answer. It's a dilemma for me. That's what it is. But so maybe let's just hear from you
Yeah.
first.
So I was really grateful on my own journey that I did start teaching after my 200-hour certification, because if you keep going and get your 300-hour certification or yin yoga or whatever other specialty that you want to add to your classes, it actually gets more overwhelming the more knowledge that you have, because you're just like, oh, I could take this theme in a class or I could do this.
Mhm.
And I was really lucky that I had the practice in with my 200-hour knowledge first, and then was able to layer on. So even if you feel like you don't know enough, you know enough at this point to start, is what I say.
That's such a good point. Because wow, I mean, I'm also lucky because I just because I started teaching. So I feel really lucky because I had to get over this threshold of feeling really uncomfortable and of feeling, oh, what do I know? Who am I to do this? So I'm a bit torn because at the one hand, I'm really like, oh my God, I would love to do like, I don't know, 10 trainings more. And I would love to know more about this and more about that. But I think in the end, when it comes to teaching a class, it's also a very hands-on thing. Because of course there's so much more knowledge you can acquire, and there's so much more about anatomy, philosophy, the postures, breathing, but kind of this very basic thing of giving a good yoga class where you hold the space for your students and where you keep the energy going during the class. I think this is something you only learn by doing. So I really think like, and I saw this in myself, how much I have changed and I've been doing this for only like 6 or 7 months now. But I already feel a very big change, which I'm super grateful for. And I still feel like I want to learn so much more because, of course, I also want to get deeper into my practice and develop myself on this path. But then I think like this being there for your class is something you can only learn by practicing it. And the only way to practice teaching classes is teaching classes.
And I know that's the most annoying advice for people to hear, because they want to feel better before they actually start going out and teaching. But it's so, so true. And whether you start in person, like Gregor did, going out right away into a studio, I was too shy to do that, and COVID hit. I didn't have that
Uh,
option. So I
oh,
started
yeah.
on YouTube. That was something that I was more comfortable with, and that was easier for me because I knew that I could just delete it after if I didn't want to post it. But everything I ever recorded, all of the classes that you see on YouTube of mine, are all one take. I don't redo any of them. I uploaded
Just constant.
sound. Just do it. I go back to my. I'm just like, oh my God, I don't mind. I only use my iPhone. Like,
Because, wow, I admire you so much for this because during my teacher training, we had to record ourselves, and it was the most difficult homework we had in the whole program. And I had such a like imposter syndrome down a weekend after this when I recorded and I sent it. I just sent it. I sent because I thought I'm not going to do this again. But when I looked at it, I thought, oh my God, this is bad. Look at this forward fold. Like I was really judging myself hardcore. So yeah, I love just that you got the courage to do this and upload this on YouTube. But I think it's also super important. And the thing is, once you do it once, you just say kind of, oh yeah, this is actually my practice and this is my body and this is how my body looks in these positions. And then you realize that actually it's very helpful for some people.
mm-hmm, for sure. This is one of the reasons why I continue to show up, because it's like I had someone who looked more like me when I was first starting my yoga. Maybe I would have stuck with it a little bit more. Maybe I would have felt less intimidated. So that's a
Yeah.
big inspiration for me, is I want people who maybe look like me to practice more as well and to be inspired that you can do more complicated things. Because I definitely don't teach to beginners. I teach more like advanced yoga classes and more on like energetics and stuff. But I just want people to feel accepted. And if them seeing like the shape of my body helps them do that, it's really amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah. Having inspiration for yourself and why you show up is really important too.
Yeah, totally. I mean, this is also a thing, kind of. I noticed this last week that when I gave like a lot of classes because there were some people of my studio were on holiday and I covered their classes, and it was amazing to teach so many classes. But at the end, I felt almost a bit burnt out because I thought, oof, I can only give so many classes. I can only talk about so much things, and then I run out of ideas. But in the end, for me, it's always like I really see teaching as a service to the students. And when I go into the class, and especially this moment you talked about before, when people come out of Shavasana and they're just kind of in a blissful state and walk out of the shala, that's a really nice moment.
Mm-hmm. This has been an absolutely amazing conversation. I was so happy to have you here, see your face again. I hope we get to meet in person again.
I do, yes.
Maybe on the Camino again, we shall see. But do you have any final words? Maybe like just one sentence, your best advice for teachers who have just.
I have a final question for you. So you started teaching right after the teacher training. Looking back, what would you do differently? Or what, after kind of learning what you've learned, after walking the path, what would you maybe change?
See, I don't think for me it would have been right after the training because it did take me a little while to start getting on YouTube. I would have gotten on YouTube sooner because I had prime opportunity during COVID and I missed out on that. But even like a couple years into teaching, I wish I would have just gone for it and reached out to the larger studios with the bigger classes and believed that I was ready for it. Not that there's anything with smaller studios or smaller classes, but I just held myself back when I was ready, far beyond when I believed.
Wow, oh, this is so good. Yeah, I think usually we hold ourselves back because of what we think people say, of whether we think we're ready or not, whether we think we're good enough or not. Loads of reasons, yeah.
Yes. All right, Gregor, where can people find you?
Oh, yeah. You can follow me on Instagram. I think we'll share this live as a collaborative post, so you can just follow me there. And then just click on my link tree because I just realized my website includes my surname and it's really hard for English speaking people because it's like Aster. So just check me out on Instagram. And of course, if you are in Barcelona, I would love to have you in one of my classes.
Oh, thank you so much. It was a pleasure as always. I love your energy.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. This was really super nice. When you wrote me, I was like, oh, yes, I really want to do this.
You're most welcome. All right, bye everyone. Have a fabulous rest of your day.
Bye.